Hi guys, Beth here, coming to you with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today I want to talk about the best 3 rares in each faction. I'll try and make it quick, not go into too much detail, but just give you an idea which rares, especially early game guys, which rares are worth keeping and building and which are pretty much food. Let's get into it. So, starting with the Banner Lords, pretty easy. Now, I'm going to include Void rares in here just because they are still rares, and they are quite easy to pull from Void shards. Starting number 1, Dagger. She has a decreased defense, which is excellent. She's got a multi-hit and a turn meter decrease, and she's got a decreased attack, which is pretty good. Decent stats, decent attack stats, decent speed. I like Dagger. I think she's a pretty good champion. Number 2 is easily farmable from the campaign, from the stage 1 of the campaign, Valerie. And Valerie's good for 2 reasons. 1, the shield. And if you book her, you can farm her in the campaign and book her up. She has a stronger shield, which is excellent. And this, the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. So she's actually a very good champion. Decent defense, decent HP, okay speed. Valerie's another great champion. And number 3, Myrmidon. Strange name. So he doesn't bring a huge amount. He's got a small chance of a provoke on his A1. Damages based on defense, which is pretty good, is what we like in our champions. He's got an AoE on his A2 with a small decrease attack buff, also based on defense. 60 booked up to 80% chance on a 3-turn cooldown. It's not too bad, but it's his A3 I like. Places a 50% ally protection buff on all allies for 2 turns, and this can be every 4 turns, and places a 15% continuous heal buff on this champion for 2 turns. So I like this ally protection from a rare. Decent HP, decent defense, decent speed. You know, he's not a bad champion. I wouldn't punch him into food. Worth keeping. Right, High Elves. There's only really one you can start with in the High Elves, and I'm not going to include any of the starting champions because that's just silly. So Apothecary, everyone knows Apothecary. Great stats, incredible speed. A1 is a random 3 times attack. Then it's the heal, and the heal can be critical, so you need to book him or build him with crit rate. And he's got this increased speed and fills the turn meter. Apothecary is like S tier. He is end game champion. He is excellent. And obviously on the Void side, Reliquary Tender. I mean, what can I say about her? Everyone knows about Reliquary Tender. You get her, you max her out. 6 stars. She is fantastic. Okay, A1's not much. It's the A2. It's the cleanse. Remove all debuffs from all allies. Then place a 15% continuous heal buff on them for 2 turns. Suddenly that was getting feedback, but we'll turn that down. Decent HP, great speed, and then she's got the revive and fills their turn meter. For a rare, she's fantastic. She's better than a whole lot of epics out there. Her and Apothecary are 2 I really want. And then my third choice for High Elves is RARES. I think she's good. I think on her A1, attacks 1 enemy, gets an extra turn if the target's killed. Okay. Her A2, she's got a cleanse. Remove 1 random debuff from all allies. The 60% chance of placing a 30% increased speed on all allies for 2 turns. This is booked up to 100% chance every 3 turns. I think that's great. And her passive, she counterattacks when anytime an ally is attacked. If someone attacks your ally, she will counterattack every single time. And she's got great stats. Her attack and defense are pretty decent. Okay, HP, speed's a little slow, but it's not too bad. I think she's a very underrated champion, and you can farm her in the campaign. Free farmable champion. Right, moving on to the Sacred Order. Right, we have none other. It's another void, I'm afraid. Draconis. This guy's excellent. Damage based on HP. Heals an ally on his A1. Places a shield every 3 turns for 2 turns. And it's based on 15% of this champion's max HP. So he's got good starting HP. He's got good speed. And then on his A3, removes debuffs from the ally with the lowest HP, then heals them by 25% of the damage inflicted. Damage based on HP. He's good. He's very, very good, Draconis. Another one I don't have. Number 2, Mother Superior. Early game, she's probably one of the best healers out there. I mean, she's probably one of the best healers out there, period. But I pulled her and she managed to keep my team alive for a long way into the game. So on A1, she attacks one enemy. She's got a small chance of placing a decreased attack. What it is. Then on A2, heals an ally by 30% of this champion's max HP, so you can, and she's got great HP, and then places a shield buff equal to any surplus heal for 2 turns if the target is fully healed by this skill. And then on A3, she's got a continuous heal, 2 turns, and places a shield buff up to 10% of the target's HP on all allies for 2 turns if an ally's HP is full. So if you put on a continuous heal and some of the allies' HPs are full, then she'll put a shield on them, which is, I think she's fantastic. She's got great speed. She's got a speed aura in all battle. And number 3, I said we're not going to take the starting champions, is our friend Purgatator. Right, Purgatator, this guy hits like a truck. Look at his attack. Very, very good attack. Okay speed. He's very squishy. He attacks one enemy 2 times, will ignore shield buffs on his A1. On his A2, he's got an AoE, and this AoE hits like a truck. So, inflicts 10% extra critical damage for each debuff on this champion. Stacks up to 50%. So, anytime he gets debuffed, when he hits like an absolute truck. I've seen videos on him, and yeah, don't sleep on this guy. And then his A3 attacks one enemy, decreases the target's max HP by 20%, the damage inflicted. So pretty good for bosses to decrease their max HP. He's number 3. He's wonderful. I like a bit of Purgatator. Right, moving on to the Barbarian. And I mean, pretty obvious. War Maiden, we know what she does. She drops defense. Got a 100% chance of dropping defense. The strong defense, decent HP. She hits hard. She's got decent attack stats, okay speed. Force, which is good for certain situations. Obviously, you can't have all the same affinity champions. She hits really hard. Builder with a bit of accuracy. She lands at decreased defense. A builder with huge crit rate and crit damage, and she hits hard. Number 2 is Marked. They're very, very similar looking, aren't they? They just put some trousers on this one. Right, A1, decreased defense. It's small decreased defense. Got an AoE on the A2. She places a decreased accuracy for 2 turns. That's pretty useful, but it's an A3. It places block debuffs on all allies for 1 turn and a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. This is excellent. On a 3-turn cooldown, she's fantastic. Great HP, great speed. She's a very, very good champion. Good in clan boss, good in lots of areas in the game. Do not underestimate Mark. And the 3rd one is Soulborn Boya. He hits hard, this Barbarian. Got an AoE on the A1. Additional 25% chance of inflicting a critical hit. You only need a crit rate of 75. Attacks one enemy on an A2. There's an additional 25% chance of critical hit. Will ignore 75% of the target's defense. He hits hard. But it's an A3. It's the soul-bound shot. This hits hard. Again, the 25% chance of inflicting a critical hit. but also has a 75% chance of fully depleting the target's turn. Fully depleting the target's turn meter. When booked, that's 100% chance of depleting the target turn. He is excellent. Soulborn Boya, build her up, star out, use her in your teams. He's fantastic. Right, moving on to Ogren. Back to a few Void. Bellower. We all know Bellower. Got great stats, great HP, great attack, decent defense, decent speed. Bellower's got an AoE on his A1, AoE on his A2, and an AoE on his A3. And he hits pretty decently hard. He's got different skills with that: block cooldowns, decrease speed, decrease attack, decrease defense. Bellower's excellent. Pull him. Don't sleep on him. My second one is going to be Gear Grinder. Now this guy's pretty decent healer. Great HP. Damage is based on HP. Continuous heal buff on this champion on his A1. Heals all allies by 15% of their max HP every 3 turns on his A2. And his A3 revives the ally with 50% HP and 50% turn meter every 5 turns. He's fantastic. Fortunately, another Void, but there he is. Right. Number 3, I'm going to go with Ogren Jailer. This guy, he's only single target attack, but he hits like an absolute truck. Attacks one enemy, has a 40% chance of removing 1 random buff from the target. He's A1, 40% chance of stealing 2 random buffs from the target. Places an extra hit if any buff is stolen. And his A3, if the target has no active buffs, his damage increases by 20%. Got great stats here, great attack. He does hit very, very, very hard. Do not sleep on Ogren Jailer. Right, moving on to the Lizard Man. Try and keep this quick and short. Right. Arrow specs. Turn meter, increase speed on all allies, revive, small chance of poison, nothing much there. But his revive and his increased turn meter speed is excellent. Metal Shaper got the shield when it's booked out every 2 turns for 2 turns. It's not a huge shield, but it is a shield. It's pretty decent. And then he's got to remove all debuffs from an ally with the lowest HP. And then heals the champion by 20% of the champion's max HP. And places increased defense buff on the target for 3 turns. Metal Shape is pretty good. I use him. I like him. Third one is Bogwalker. Use me. Right. A1 attacks 1 enemy. Decrease attack. AoE on his A2 with a small increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. Every 3 turns. But it's his passive. Places 30% reflect damage buff on all allies for 1 turn when attacked with a critical hit. He's got great defense, great HP. Speed's a little slow, but he's not too bad. Definitely my top 3 of Lizard or rares. Right, moving on to Skinwalkers. The Skinwalkers was a little easier. Right, Greybeard, farmable in the campaign. He's an excellent defense champion. Right, on his A1, attacks 1 enemy. Got a provoke. On his A2, attack AoE, and a small chance of placing a freeze on the AoE, and damage is inflicted proportional to defense, which is what we like. Build up his defense, hits harder, keeps him alive longer. Great champion. And then his A3 places shield buff on the champion, counter-attack buff on this champion, and the value of the shield is proportional to defense. And this buff cannot be removed. Farmable in the campaign. Great champion. Right. Number 2, Gnarlhorn. This guy's could be considered better. I like Gnarlhorn. Attacks 1 enemy. Damage increases according to how much HP this champion has lost. A2. He's got an AoE provoke. He places it. It's not a chance. He places it. And then places increased defense buff on the champion for 2 turns. And then on his A3, he's got an unkillable buff every 3 turns for 2 turns. This guy's fantastic. Great HP, decent speed, decent stats. Increases ally defense in dungeons by 27%. That's huge. Huge defense in dungeons. Gnarlhorn, fantastic champion. Really, really good. And my last one that I'm going to go to is going to be Channeler. Talked about him the other day. Got decent HP, decent defense, great speed, decent skills. A1, small heal reduction. A2, small chance of placing a stun, but it's his A3. Increased speed on all buff on all allies for 2 turns. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% every 4 turns. I think this guy is pretty decent support. And he's my number 3 in Skinwalker. Right, moving on to Orcs. Orcs are difficult. For rares, don't like many of the Orc rares, to be honest. Veteran is probably the best out of the lot. Got a 2 times attack on his A1. Chance of placing a decreased attack. It is proportional. It is based on defense. Good. Attacks 1 enemy. Increased crit rate on his A2. Buff on all allies for 3 turns. Damage. Oh, that is if the target is killed. His A3 AoE. 50% chance of placing a block buff, debuff 1 turn. Damage increase according to this champion's max HP. So very good defense. Very good HP. Decent speed. Decent champion. Now, it was harder to find the other 2 orcs that I thought were pretty decent because they're all pretty meh. I went with Ripper Fist. Got good attack. That's about it. So you can hit hard on his attack. A1 is a 2 times attack. A2 has got a 100% heal reduction because he's got he attacks 1 enemy 3 times. So he's okay. He's not too bad. And places increased attack buff on the champion for 1 turn. Decreases the cooldown of ripped shreds every time this champion's HP drops below 50%. So he's not too bad. I would keep him if I pulled him. A lot of the rest of the Orc rares are just food. Obviously, Gaelic's a starting champion. The rest of them are just food. And I went for Wyvernbane. Say not burn. Wyvernbane. Attacks 1 enemy on the A1. Attacks 1 enemy. Small chance. 50% chance of decreasing the turn meter by 20%. And attacks 1 enemy and has a 75%, hooked up to 100% chance placing an HP burn debuff for 2 turns every 4 turns. That's why I went for Wyvernbane. Okay attack, okay defense, pretty low HP, speed's a bit meh. But I'm telling you, he is the best out of the rest of the Orc. They are severely lacking decent rares. The Orc faction. Right, moving on. Demon Spawn. This is probably a little easier. Number 1, we're going to go with Fellhound. Great campaign farmer. AoE. Damages based on defense and attack. Continuous heal. Reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. Every 2 turns. He's very, very good, Fellhound. And then a block damage buff on an ally for 1 turn every 3 turns. It's a great campaign farmer. You pull him, book him, use him, and see how good he is. Right. Number 2, for the Demon Spawn, I'm going to go with Abyssal, fairly new champion. A1 has got an AoE, small chance of a block buffs. A2, the heal on all allies by 15% of their max HP every 3 turns, and that can go up to 45%. It's a big heal. Every 3 turns. It's a big old heal he puts out. Decent HP. And on his A3, places a 30% increased defense buff and a 25% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns every 4 turns. He's pretty decent. Very useful champion. Very good HP. I don't have him. If I had him, I would book him out. And then, number 3, another farmable champion. Diabolist. A2 is excellent. Attacks all enemies, places 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. That's every 3 turns. Keeps your team moving quick. On A3, every 3 turns, she fills the turn meter by 15% and decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 15%. Decent HP. She's a little squishy. Fantastic starting speed. She's very, very one of the quickest champions out there. Do not sleep on Diabolist. I pulled her fairly early from a shard. She helped me move through campaign, through arena. Excellent, excellent champion. Right. Moving on to Undead. Undead Horde. Right. Pretty easy. Everyone knows about Frozen Banshee. Clan boss champion with a poison sensitivity and her 2 poisons on her A1. Decent stats, decent speed. Frozen Banshee and your clan boss team. Brilliant. Pull her from a rare. Fantastic. I actually pulled her from a mystery shard. I have mine, she does huge damage. Do not sleep on Frozen Banshee. And her sister in crime, Grave Chill Killer. Again with the poisons. Decreased defense. Small defense. Decreased attack if the target is under poison, which clan boss they will. She's a clan boss champion again. But she will put the decreased defense on because the clan boss will be under poison. And her A3 attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Each hit is a small poison. Places 5% poison if the boss or if the target, is under poison sensitivity. And if you put her with Frozen Banshee, she will be keeping the clan boss under a poison sensitivity most of the time, every 3 turns. So 2 of them together are fantastic. And then last one, Undead Doomscreech. He's a void, great starting HP. 1 enemy 2 times on his A1, decrease accuracy. Fills the turn meter. This on his A2 is X. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%. Places the 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. Not a chance. It places, and this is every 3 turns. This is fantastic. Fills the turn meter and increased defense every 3 turns. Doomscreech is brilliant. And he's got an AoE on his A3. Places a shield buff equal to 30% of this max HP on this champion for 2 turns. Damage increase according to the champion's current HP. So he's Doomscreech. You pull him, he's very, very, very good. Do not sleep. Right, moving swiftly on to the Dark Elves. The queen of the rares, probably in the top 3 rares. A legendary dressed in rare clothing. Cold Heart. Everyone knows Cold Heart. I mean, almost 13,000 reviews. Got to tell you something. The stats are okay. Her attack is pretty decent. On A1, attacks 4 times at random. Chance of placing a heal reduction. A2, another AoE. Decreased accuracy, poison, heal reduction. But her A3 is what she's known for. Her Heart Seeker. This thing hits so hard. It decreases the target's turn meter by 100%. By 100%. Has an extra 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit. So you need to book out 70% crit rate. Make sure she's got a 100% crit rate on her. And damage increases according to enemy max HP. So the more HP an enemy has, the harder she hits. So think about dungeon boss, Doom Tower boss. I mean, she is so good. The further you get in the game, the better she is. She gets better and better and better. Sure, you've all heard of Cold Heart. If you haven't, you pull her, use her. Literally one of the best champions overall in the game. Number 2, I'm going to go with Painkeeper, another void. Decent HP. She's known for this. Decrease the cooldown of all ally skills by 1 turn. She's a clan boss, part of a clan boss on killable teams. Very, very good. Pretty quick. Decent HP. She's got an AoE on her A2. Then heals all allies by 15% of this champion's max HP. Damage based on HP and attack. Very, very good. attacks one enemy 2 times, fills the champion's turn meter by 10%. Very, very good champ. And last but not least, on the Dark Elves, I went for Paragon just because of the Paragon Spider Chi. Sorry, they're all voids, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Defense is good, but he's known for his A2. When booked, this places an unkillable buff, an increased attack buff on a target ally for 2 turns, every 2 turns. People use him in Spider Cheese, so you keep him, you have to do it on manual, but you keep him unkillable the whole time. Keep his defense and his HP low. Don't need to book him, level him up. 3 stars is fine. You just need to book those 2 skills. You get all the little spiders dropping their poisons on him, and he's constantly unkillable. Leaves the rest of your champions to destroy the spider. Very, very, very good champion. Right, for cheeses. Moving on. Night Revenant. Right, let's have a go. Number 1 I like is Coffin Dodger. Coffin Dodger? Coffin Smasher. Coffin Dodger, something else entirely. Coffin Smasher. Wow. HP, very, very good. Speed's a bit slow. Defense is okay. His attack's not any good. But his damage is based on HP. He attacks one enemy 3 times. I mean, he's pretty much a clan boss champion. You can use him in other places, dungeons, Doom Tower, but he's known for being a clan boss champion. So attacks one enemy 3 times, 15% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack. You can book that up for 2 turns. Very, very good. We like the clan boss to have decreased attack. And he has an HP burn. When booked up, that is a 75% chance of placing an HP burn for 2 turns. On the clan boss, excellent. Passive also very good. He decreases the damage enemies inflict with an AoE attacks by 5%. Very useful rare champ. Then I went for a Renegade. Where are you, Renegade? A Void champion. Decent stats. Decent HP. Attacks one enemy on A1. Heal 100% chance of heal reduction on a 50% chance of that. A2. Attacks at random 3 times. 50% chance of placing decreased speed. Places a 25% decreased accuracy. Can improve with booking. And her A3 decreases the cooldown of all ally skills by 2 turns. This skill does not affect other champions with this skill. This champion will receive damage equal to 30% of their max HP. This will happen even if it kills this champion. So she'll decrease the cooldown of all ally skills, but she damages herself by 30%. If you've got cleansers or healers in the side, that doesn't matter because you can just keep healing her and she'll just keep decreasing the cooldown of their skills. She's very, very good. Right, last one for the knights, and I went for Centurion, which is not him. Not him. Acolyte, where are you, Centurion? Of course, it's Void. Sorry, he's a Void. A1 attacks one enemy, heals a champion by 15% of the damage inflicted. Heals this champion on his A2 by 30% of their max HP and places a 30% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns. Good HP, good defense. And then on his A3, changes remaining HP levels with a target enemy, then equalizes the HP of all allies. The fairly unique skill list. Don't underrate it. Don't sleep on Centurion. I still think the best is probably Coffin Smasher, not Dodger. Right. Last but not least, I mean, Shadowkin, there's only 3 rares, so they're probably the best. If you're putting them in the best 3 rares in faction. So let's not talk about Shadowkin. Dwarves. Now, there's some good dwarves in the dwarf faction, especially in the rares. And I'd like Bulwark, Clan Boss Champion. He can be used in Doom Tower. He's got a 2-hitter on the A1. Small chance of placing a weaken. Damages based on defense. On his A2, attacks one enemy. Got an HP burn. Booked up to 100% chance of placing HP burn for 2 turns. Every 3 turns. Very, very good. And this is why it's good. And he's got a passive. So when attacked, has a 30% chance of extending the duration all debuffs on the attacker by 1 turn. Very, very good extending debuffs on attackers. And you can see how many reviews he's got. It's actually very, very good. Number 2, Kurzad, Depart, another Void. Unfortunately, very good attack. The rest of his skills are okay, or his stats are okay. A1 attacks one enemy. Place an extra hit if this is critical. Extra hit places a decreased speed. We like that. A2 attacks all enemies. Each critical hit fills this champion's turn meter by 7.5%. To book him with high crit rate. So each critical hit, so if there's 4 enemies, that's going to fill his turn meter by 30%. And his A3 places a 50% increase accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns. Excuse me. Pretty rare skill this. And then attacks all enemies. So he places the increased accuracy first, then attacks all enemies. And it has a 75% chance, up to 100% chance when booked, of placing a 30% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. Pretty unique champion, this, with the increased accuracy on him. Pretty handy in Doom Tower when you need high accuracy. Very good champion. And lastly, I've gone for a non-void. I've gone for Avir the Alchmage. I really rate this champion. On his A3, every 4 turns, fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% and heals all allies by 15% of this champion's max HP. Very good starting max HP when he starts. A2, got an AoE. Has a 50% chance of placing 25% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. Also places a 15% decreased speed debuff 1 turn on targets under poison buffs. At A1, he's got a chance of placing a 30%, booked up to 45% chance of placing a 5% poison for 2 turns. I think he's very, very good. Do not sleep on Avir the Alchemist. So guys, that's pretty much it for the video. Those are the rares, in my opinion, worth building. Best 3 rares in each faction. Don't sleep on any of the ones that I've mentioned. Very, very good champ. Used in a lot of places, mid, late game. Certainly some of them are definitely used in late game. And there we go, guys. That's the video. If you like it, hit the like button. If you dislike it, hit the dislike button. Consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification to let you know when I post a new video. Otherwise, guys, take care.